ancient blueprint is that the true measure of a society isn't its wealth or its military power or its cultural achievements. The real test, back then, and maybe now too, is how it treats the people with no voice, no power, and no one else to stand up for them.
Hey, welcome. Today we're going to crack open a really old text that, believe it or not, feels like it was written for right now. It's this incredible ancient blueprint for justice that speaks directly to some of our biggest, most complicated social issues.
And that really gets us to the main question, right? What can a 3,000-year-old collection of laws and warnings actually teach us about stuff like immigration and social safety nets? Well, you might be surprised, but the answer is a whole lot. It's way more relevant than you might think.
So, the first big idea we're going to unpack is this concept of a standard for justice that absolutely refuses to be stuck inside one country's borders. We're talking about a universal benchmark for all of humanity. Okay, so take the prophet Amos, for example. When he starts out, he doesn't go after the nations around Israel for who they worship or their religious practices. Nope. He calls them out for just basic inhumanity, for cruelty. And this sets up a really crucial point. This kind of justice isn't some private club. It applies to everyone, everywhere. And just look at the charges themselves. They're so telling. Damascus gets called out for horrible war crimes. Tyre is condemned for participating in the slave trade. Ammon for just unspeakable brutality. The big takeaway here is that being inhumane, no matter where it happens, is seen as this major offense that God is going to reckon with. All right, so now let's zoom in a little and see how this universal standard gets distilled into a very specific command for the people of Israel. And it focuses on the immigrant, the foreigner who's living right there among them. We have to know this one key Hebrew word, ger. Now, this isn't just a tourist passing through. A ger is a resident alien, someone from another place who's come to make a home there. Basically, an immigrant. So you gotta ask, right? Why single them out? Why was there this constant, repeated focus on protecting the foreigner? And the answer is just, wow. It's so powerful, and it's all about empathy. The text literally says, you know the heart of a foreigner. The people were commanded to remember their own story, to remember what it felt like to be vulnerable strangers in Egypt. That shared memory wasn't just a history lesson. It was supposed to be the fuel for their compassion. And this wasn't just a simple, hey, don't be mean rule. Not at all. It was a whole mandate for active care. First, there had to be equal justice, the same laws for the native-born and the immigrant. Second, basic provision, things like letting foreigners gather leftover grain from the field so they wouldn't starve. And third, the mandate called for something just totally radical. I mean, just look at this comparison. We've all heard the famous command, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. But get this, the law applies that exact same standard to the immigrant. You shall love the foreigner as yourself. This put their well-being on the absolute highest ethical level in the entire system. Just incredible. And this concern for the vulnerable, it wasn't just a one-time thing. It was this consistent pattern. The foreigner, along with the widow and the orphan, they kind of became the ultimate report card for how the society was doing. And that's the bottom line for this section. If you wanted to know if Israel was actually living justly, you wouldn't check out their temple or their army. You'd look at how they were treating these three specific groups of people. They were the litmus test. And the prophets? Oh, they picked up this theme over and over again. It's like this powerful rhythmic chorus. First up, you've got Isaiah, and his call is so direct. He's saying, look, real righteousness, true faith, it's not about religious shows. It's about actively fighting for justice for the people who have no one else to defend them. Then you have Jeremiah, and he takes it even a step further. He connects the nation's security, its very stability, to how they treat the vulnerable. For Jeremiah, this wasn't just a matter of ethics. Justice for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow was a matter of national survival. The stakes could not be higher. And to round out this chorus, you've got Zechariah, and his message is just crystal clear. You see the pattern here? It's relentless. Kindness, mercy, true justice, all of it is proven by how you treat the widow, the orphan, the immigrant, and the poor. It's an absolute, unwavering divine command. So what on earth does all of this mean for us? Well, this ancient blueprint lays down a timeless challenge that echoes right into our world today. And let's be really clear about something. In its original context, this was not a suggestion for optional charity. This wasn't about feeling good by giving away some leftovers. No, this was framed as a core, non-negotiable requirement for a just society, period.
So really, these ancient voices are kind of holding up a mirror, posing a direct question to our societies, to our communities, and, to each one of us. How are we treating the most vulnerable people around us?
Because at the end of the day, the big takeaway from this whole ancient blueprint is that the true measure of a society isn't its wealth or its military power or its cultural achievements. The real test, back then, and maybe now too, is how it treats the people with no voice, no power, and no one else to stand up for them.
Thanks for watching. Visit our website www.christthelivingtruth.com to learn more.